Hey BookTube! Today I wanted to just film a casual sit-down video talking about a few of my recent reads that I feel are underrated. We might also get into a little bit of chatting about my TBR over the next couple months, just like a casual sit-down book chat. So we're going to dive right into it and talk about the book that I finished yesterday, which was Bulletproof by KM Moronova. So here she is. This is Bulletproof by KM Moronova. I just finished this book yesterday. This is book 4 in KM Moronova's Dark Forces universe, which is about like a fictional military unit or like branch of the military where like all of these criminals and like people who have done bad things get recruited to carry out all of these like secret and like really dangerous missions. So this was book 4. This book was marketed as a standalone, but the ending of this book, no spoilers, but the ending is kind of left open-ended. So I feel like we are going to see more of them in the Dark Forces universe in the future, which I am really excited to see more of them. I really loved the main characters in this book. We follow Roman 6, who is the lieutenant of this squad, and then we follow Briar Thornton, who is just like a regular girl who ends up caught up in all of this. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this book is because throughout the entire book, I was like, this is a solid, like, 4-star read. Personally, my favorite books and my favorite couple from the Dark Forces universe is books 2 and 3. It's the duet that's Your Knife, My Heart, and My Blade, Your Back, which follows Cameron and Emery. They have been my favorite couple so far. I feel like I connected with both of them so much as like characters. Really, really loved them. So the whole time throughout this, I was like, this seems like it's shaking up to be a solid like 4-star read. It's entertaining, it's fast paced, a lot is happening. It's different from the other Dark Forces books in that it's like set in a small town and it's like undercover operations. So it is very different than like the settings and the plot that's kind of happening in the other Dark Forces books. But the last like 50 pages of this were batshit crazy. And I am just absolutely shocked that nobody is talking about this, especially because like on release day there was a lot of buzz about it. Like I saw a lot of people picking it up and I saw a lot of people like taking their like little aesthetic pictures with the book, but since then I haven't seen anybody actually like discussing it, and I need to talk about this with somebody because the ending, again, no spoilers. I'm going to make this like as spoiler free as possible, but the ending of this book is fucking insane. And like the way that this ties in with the other books in the series, I think is just so fantastic. And really, the ending was one of those where I was like, it was like plot twist after plot twist, and it was so crazy that I was like, I don't know how I want to rate this anymore. Like, because the whole time I was like, oh yeah, this is solid, like 4.5 stars, like good, not necessarily god tier, but like a good, solid, entertaining read. And then I got to those last 50 pages and I was like crying and like laughing and like my mind was blown, like plot twist, like staring at the wall. And the fact that I haven't really seen anybody talk about this is making me feel like I'm crazy because I'm like, did we read this same book? Like, this shit's wild. So I don't know. I really loved this. There was one other thing in this book that I wanted to talk about, completely unrelated, but there are some like grammatical errors throughout this book, and there is one big inconsistency that regarding one of the characters that really, really bothered me. The character of Callum, there are 2 times in this book where he is referred to as having brown eyes, and then there's 2 separate times in the book where he's referred to as having blue eyes. And that doesn't seem like it was like an intentional inconsistency for any plot reason. I think it was just a legitimate mistake that KM Moronova made in the writing and then didn't edit, and then her editors didn't like pick up on either. But that was one of the things that, like, throughout this book I was like, damn, like, normally grammatical errors in books don't really bother me. Like, I know people were talking about some of the errors and like inconsistencies in like Brimstone when that came out earlier this year, and like, I personally didn't give a fuck about that. I thought Brimstone was fantastic. Did that come out this year or was that last year? Last year? Last year. But whenever it came out and people were like talking about the grammatical errors and the inconsistencies, none of it really bothered me. Like, I noticed one or two, but I was kind of like, like, it's fine. But that particular inconsistency in this did really bother me because it happened more than once. So it felt like it should have been something that should have been caught by like the editors or like beta readers, whoever. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about this one because it was just so crazy and so good. But yeah, this one was so good. And like, with the way that it ended, now I'm like, I cannot wait for the next book in the Dark Forces universe. Like, I cannot wait for it. But I don't know when it's coming because I know over the summer KM Moronova's Once Upon a Demon's Heart duet is releasing. Like, the first book is being re-released, like traditionally published, and then the second book is coming out at the end of the summer. And then I know she has another, like, she has like a murder mystery thriller like romance coming up, I believe sometime this year or early next year, that's releasing. So I feel like we're probably not going to get another book in the Dark Forces universe until next year at the earliest. I've loved all the books in the Dark Forces universe, but this book, the way that it was wrapped up, I'm like, I want more. Like, I want to see more of them. I want to see more of their story. I want to see where they end up. And this was marketed as a standalone, and it does have like a satisfying ending, but at the same time, I want more. So that's going to be my thoughts for Bulletproof by KM Moronova. I just want to talk with somebody about this one because it was really wild. The next book that I wanted to talk about is Clara and the Devil by Olivie Blake. So this is actually a graphic novel. This is a graphic novel written by Olivie Blake, illustrated by Little Chmura. Chmura? Chmura? Chmura. I think it's Chmura. Um, this was fantastic. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous. Like, are you kidding me? The illustrations in here are unreal. This book is so beautiful. It was really, really short. I finished this in less than a day. It took me, I think it took me like an hour or two to read the entire book. Because it's a graphic novel, the way the storytelling is, part of the storytelling relies on the pictures and not necessarily so much like actual writing and dialogue. But I thought this was really, really good. This was volume one, and it follows Clara, who is like a small town girl who works at a library. She has her boyfriend and her best friend, and she really feels like her life is all planned out for her. And then she meets the devil, who starts hooking up with her best friend and just really sets things on a different path for her. And I just thought this was so good. This is also the first graphic novel that I've read in like years. I went through a really like short manga phase, probably when I was like late middle school, early high school. And I got into it for a little bit around the time where I was kind of like discovering my love for anime. But at the end of the day, my love for anime kind of won out, and I didn't really get super deep into like the world of manga or graphic novels. So this was the first graphic novel I had picked up and actually read as an adult. And I just thought it was so entertaining. I felt like this was such a good, like, a great little slump buster because you're still reading something and you're still like consuming this really interesting, entertaining story, but it doesn't require like the same level or the same kind of brain power that like reading a whole ass like 400 to 500 page book of just words and no illustrations. Like, it's very different, but it was still super, super enjoyable. So I would highly recommend this one. I like I said, I'm not super well versed in like the world of graphic novels and manga, so I don't really know, like, do people rate and review them in the same way that like they rate and review books? Like, is it different because you're taking the art? Is it different because you're taking like the physical art into consideration? I don't really know, but this was really enjoyable, and this kept me entertained, and it prevented me from having a reading slump after finishing Furybound, which I really appreciated because I did also read Furybound this month. I thought it was amazing. It was fantastic. The ending was like also batshit crazy, but I feel like that one's not an underrated book, which is why I didn't get it out to talk about in this video. You can see my copy right there. But yeah, I just thought this was great. It was fun, it was entertaining, it was quick, and I'm really excited for the next volume. I'm super curious to know when the second one is coming out. Like, is it going to be like book publishing where it's going to be a minute before the next one comes out, or is it kind of like, is the second one maybe already like sort of ready to go? I don't know, but I am really curious to see where the continuation of this story goes because I really, really did enjoy this one. So I have two more underrated reads that I want to talk about in this video, and we are gonna continue with Cruel Angel by Rebecca Kenney. This is a Phantom of the Opera romantasy retelling where the Phantom is an old god, Christine is a vampire, and Raoul is from a family of shifters. This story is set in Nashville. It is like so interesting. This is from Rebecca Kenney's Gilded Monsters series. There are 4 books out in the series so far. This is book 4. They are interconnected standalones, which I would say you definitely do have to read them in order because there's an underlying plot throughout all 4, and there's callbacks to the previous books as well as appearances from characters in the previous books as you continue to go along with the series. But I have to say, I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it was fun, it was fast paced, it was interesting. There are some level of like higher stakes to the plot, but it's not something that feels like so crazy high stakes akin to something like Direbound or like Fourth Wing. Much more like personal stakes, I guess. But I really, really loved this. This is like spicy, fun, MMF. You're getting the classic retelling in there. You're getting Phantom of the Opera where Christine doesn't have to choose. And, you know, the rivalry becomes a heated rivalry. in all seriousness, like the rivalry between the Phantom and Raoul really does become like heated and like charged, and like the tension. This was just such a good book, and I can't believe that there's not more people talking about this because this is just such like a unique romantasy, and it was so good and it was so fun. Like I truly had so much fun reading this book, and as it progressed along, I was just like giggling, kicking my feet, having a fantastic time. So, yeah, this is one of the ones that I'm really surprised that there aren't more people talking about because especially for like a lower stakes, fun, spicy romantasy, this is like everything you could want from a book like that. So the last book I really wanted to talk about in this video is Blood and Roses by Callie Hart. We have gorgeous sprayed edge here. But this is a dark romance, and it follows Zeph, who is kind of like, I would say he's like mafia adjacent. He's not in the mafia, but he is part of like the criminal underworld. And Sloane, who is like a trauma surgeon. And the way that this book plays out is so, so interesting. I really, really loved this. Part of the overarching plot is that Sloane is trying to find her sister who went missing a couple years ago. Zeph is connected in some way to be able to help her figure out what happened to her sister. This book was so, so good. It was like a spicy, fun time. There was a lot of there were like different subplots that all connected together very, very nicely. It really was like a dark, good, fun time. Some of the spice in here was fantastic. I really liked both of the main characters. I thought they were super interesting. I feel like there's possibly some setup as well for further books in this series to be about one or more of the side characters, which I'm really looking forward to. I will say I went into this, I should have known that it was not like interconnected standalones because it says volume 1. I should have known that that meant that it was like a full series following the same couple for more than one book. But for some reason, I went into it thinking that it was interconnected standalones. Again, not really sure why I thought that. I just did. Um, but yeah, this was really good. I will say this book was not without flaws. This was another, I would say this was a solid 4.5 star read for me. There were a couple times where Zeth was a little bit like, the way he was describing Sloane was a little bit like not like other girls-ish, which I didn't love. And then there were a couple moments as well where like one of the crime bosses, like the way he's described gave me like an ick. Like I feel like it was very like fat phobic and like super like negative in kind of a gross way. And I get that the man, like he's supposed to be a gross evil man, but the depiction of people using fatness to depict people being gross and evil just personally as a fat girly hits the wrong way. I personally, that was something that I did not like about this book, so I will give that criticism there. But other than those criticisms, I really did enjoy this. It was like fun, spicy, and then the underlying plot with like the criminal underworld and all these things that are happening was really, really interesting. And there were times where I found myself being like, I almost feel like the book could have done with less spice because I just wanted to get to the plot and see what was happening next. But that being said, I really did like Sloane and Zeph. I like them as a couple. I think they're both really interesting characters and interesting people. I'm really excited to see where this story goes in the future because this does end on a fairly diabolical cliffhanger that, like I said earlier, wasn't really expecting. But again, I don't really see anybody talking about this one. And like, I thought it was really good. It was really interesting. Not without flaws, but overall a solid like 4.5 star read. And again, like this ending was diabolical. So I don't know. I'm just curious to know, especially with this one and Bulletproof. I'm really curious to know like if people have read them, if other people have thoughts. But yeah, I'm really curious to know like if other people have thoughts, feelings about this. I would like to know because I had a lot of thoughts and feelings about it, and I hadn't really seen anybody else reading it or talking about it, especially since Callie Hart is the author of Brimstone and Quicksilver, and I know that that series is like huge. That's a huge series, and it is getting its third and final book this year. But because that series is so big and she is like a well-known author, I was really shocked to not see more people talking about this one. So this is going to be the last kind of underrated book that we're talking about for this video. So the last little thing I wanted to talk about before ending this video is some of the books that are on my upcoming TBR and kind of my reading plans for the next couple of months. So I have a TBR of 6 books that I'm supposed to be reading for a YouTube video. I got book recs from some of my favorite book creators, all like amazing women who are on BookTok and Bookstagram. And I got 6 different book recs from, I believe, 4 different creators. And I got those book recs. Some of the books I already had in my collection. Some of the books I did not have yet, so I bought. Did everything to prep for the video, and then just like haven't wanted to pick those books up. The exception to that is going to be this one. We have Captured by the Scaled Outlaw. This is by Natalia Rui. This is a monster romance from an author that I've never read before, but I love monster romance, and I feel like I've kind of been craving like a good monster romance lately. It's been a minute since I've read any monster romance, really. I feel like I was kind of having a real moment with monster romance last year, and then I finished all of the monster romance that I had on my physical TBR from authors that I've read before, and then I was just like scared to like branch out and read monster romance from like a new author, but I got this one, and this is actually for that video. This is one of the 6 books on that TBR. So I'm hoping that I will feel inspired to pick this one up soon, because I am super excited about it and it does look like it's going to be really good. So we'll see when I get to this one, but I'm hoping it will be sometime soon. Then we have a couple of other things here. We've got this little manga. This is Girls X Vampire. This is about like a 300-year-old vampire. She's a 400-year-old vampire, and she enrolls in a human school, and it's like a Yuri manga, which I'm super excited about. I think this is going to be super cute, and it is like really short. I believe, I don't know if this is like a standalone or if this is like volume 1 of like a series, but it is a really short, tiny manga. And after how much I enjoyed Clara and the Devil, I have a feeling that I'm really gonna like this one. I just haven't actually, like, it's literally still in the packaging. I just haven't picked it up yet, but I am excited for this, and I think that this will be really fun when I do get to it. And then we have a couple of standalones. So this is Aisha. This is a, I believe, fantasy standalone. I don't know if there's any romance in here. I have heard female rage. To be honest, I picked this up because I feel like the vibe that I'm getting from this cover is very similar to one of my favorite books of all time, my favorite duology of all time, which is the Scorched Throne duology by Sarah Hashem. I feel like the vibes that I'm getting, like, that could be a Sia right there. Like, it totally could. So, she totally could. So, I was super stoked about this. I actually, these 2 books and the next book I'm going to talk about were all books that I picked up at the LA Times Festival of Books. I do have videos about me going to that event on my channel if you want to check them out. It was a really fun day. I filmed some cool content about it, but yeah, just super excited about this one. It's like fantasy standalone. I have really high hopes for this, but I feel like I've been trying to not read too much fantasy or romantasy back to back, because I did that in April and it led to me feeling really slumpy, and I felt like it kind of prevented me from connecting to the books and the stories in the way I wanted to. So I've been trying to switch it up, like switch up my genres a little bit more and read more like dark romance and things of like varying levels of stakes and all of that stuff, to hopefully prevent myself from getting in a reading slump. But I definitely do want to pick this up soon, especially since it is a standalone. And then the last book on my TBR that I wanted to talk about real quick, we have Where No Shadow Stays. This is Sarah Hashem's newest release. I did meet her and get this signed by her. I'm trying to look for the signature page right now, but I am super, super stoked about this one. This one is, look at it, but this one is a horror standalone, which I am super excited about. I believe it's horror with some like fantasy supernatural elements. I am so stoked for this book. I think this is going to be so, so good. I think the only reason why I've been hesitant to pick it up is because horror is definitely not one of my main genres. I've read a couple of horror books throughout my life. I typically stick to like thrillers if I'm going to branch into that genre, but I love Sarah Hashem. I think her writing is absolutely amazing. So I am super stoked to get into this one. I think that it is going to be really interesting and really good. I think I have just been a little hesitant to pick it up immediately because I'm like, how scary is it going to be? But genuinely, I love the Scorched Throne duology so much, and I have a feeling that even though I know this is going to be super different, I have a feeling that it is still going to be really good. So I do want to get to this one sometime soon. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the books I wanted to talk about for this video. I will also say this summer I really want to go on my Throne of Glass journey. I've never read the Throne of Glass books. I really, really do want to read them. But I know that once I start, oh my god, she did something really funny. But I know that once I start, I'm going to want to read the entire series. And because it is so many books, I think it's like 9 books, maybe 8, 9, 10. I don't know exactly how many. I have them somewhere on my bottom shelf back there. But I really do want to read those. I just know that that's like a big commitment because it is so many books, which is the reason why I'm still kind of like going through other books right now before diving into that. But that is a series that I really do want to read at some point, and I know that I am going to vlog my entire process of reading that. So definitely stay tuned for that video if you are interested. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. If you have any suggestions on which one of these 4 books you think I should pick up next, leave it in the comments below. Definitely let me know. If you would like to see reading vlogs for any of these, also please let me know. I feel like it's most likely that I will do one for this just because I love Sarah Hashem so much. But yeah, that's going to be everything for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Definitely leave me a comment, subscribe, like if you have made it to the end of this video. Thank you. I appreciate it so, so much. Thank you again for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope that I will see you in my next video. Bye!